Dawn breaks in the Alpujarras, high in the Sierra Nevada National Park, Andalusia, southern Spain. As the sun rises at the Mediterranean 1400 meters below us, a beautiful light show plays out on the mountains high above the village of Trevélez. It's a beautiful Saturday morning, weekend, which means a slow start for the residents of this typical Andalusian village. And even though we find ourselves in November, dawn brings with it a crisp, beautiful, deep blue sky, so typical of this part of Spain. Although many of these remote villages in Andalusia have suffered from depopulation, and with it the disappearing of certain businesses, one place you can always find is the traditional baker. It's an obvious and fantastic first stop. Well fed from the local oven, it's time to take a little bit of a look around and see where we are. For although Trevélez is beautiful and perfectly possible to visit all year round, we've chosen to come here on a very special day. For this is the annual Festival of Ham. This event has been taking place here in Trevélez as long as people can remember. It's an event that involves the whole village. In fact, people come from miles around, even from outside Andalusia, to visit and participate. The relationship between Trevélez and ham goes back to at least 1862, when Queen Reina Elizabeth II decided that she wanted to protect the ham that was being produced there and designated the village with her official stamp of approval. However, before any fiesta in Spain can begin, we have the welcome speeches by the mayor and local dignitaries. However, today we've come here to discover more about why this village is just so famous for its ham. The undoubtedly beautiful village of Trevélez is named after the river that runs through the valley down below. It sits in the southwestern part of the Alpujarras Mountains, just below the highest peaks of Spain. The village of Trevélez is divided into three barrios, the Barrio Bajo, the Barrio Medio, and the Barrio Alto. What they all have in common is this fantastic fresh mountain air. Very dry, crystal clear, the low mountain temperatures. And at this altitude, the village stretches between about 1,400 meters to 1,700 meters. It's the perfect climate, the perfect conditions for the curing and the salting of the jamón. There are 15 secaderos left. This is one of the smaller family-run ones. And let's take a look inside and explain a little bit about the process and how they do it. To successfully cure Spanish ham, essentially you only need three ingredients: salt, air, and time. The sacrificed pig is freshly cut and then cured using sea salt, which we also have locally here in Andalusia. The rule of thumb is 1 day per 1 kilo of meat. The second phase is essentially a period of resting. After the hams have been washed and rinsed with warm water, they're then stored for a period of more or less 2 months in cold temperatures with relative humidity of 80 to 90%. For Serrano ham, the third and usually final phase is where Trevélez really comes into its element. The hams are transferred to one of the many secaderos, a place of drying, where the air and the humidity are controlled through natural ventilation. The period of drying will vary from at least 6 months up to sometimes several years, depending on the quality of the ham and the density and maturity of flavor that you're looking for. Finally, the cured meat goes into one of the bodegas available here, where it's sold together with all the many other products that Trevélez and the region of the Alpujarras produce so successfully. All of Andalusia is famous for these whitewashed villages, but Trevélez is something just a little bit different. We're only 85 kilometers, 50 miles or so from Granada, which is just over on the other side, in the shadow of the Mulhacén, the highest mountain in the Iberian Peninsula. But from Granada, that 50 miles will take you almost 2 hours to drive. It's windy, it's beautiful, it goes through fields, across streams. The river Trevélez itself is just down below. And there is just something a little bit different about the Alpujarras. It's almost akin to being in the Himalayas at times. You sit overlooking these views of valleys covered in beautiful trees with rivers flowing down below, and something just a little bit special. A couple of small mountain rivers and streams flow down from the highest sierra above, and matching the colors of the sky above, they're equally crystal clear. And these waters are the perfect habitat for another one of the famous products of Trevélez, river trout. It's been a long morning, and it's time to go and sample the goods in one of the many local eateries. Now this may very well be freshly caught river trout, but it is Trevélez, so you're not going to get away without a few slivers of Serrano ham on top. Buen provecho. That trout, washed down with a local white wine, was truly delicious, and after lunch there's nothing better than taking a stroll through the village. The village lies inside the Sierra Nevada National Park. Sometimes in Andalusia, so famous for its beaches, it's very easy to forget that just above us we actually have the Mulhacén, the highest mountain, the highest peak in all of the Iberian Peninsula. And the village itself as well really is a hiker's paradise. You're surrounded by these narrow white streets, but from which a multitude of hiking trails lead off into the Sierra. The mountain air here is fantastic, and all you need to do is turn a corner and head off into the wilderness. The recent origin of the Alpujarras can be traced back to the expulsion of the Moors in the 15th century from Granada. They came over the top of the mountains behind us and settled here in the Alpujarras on the southern side of what is today the Sierra Nevada National Park. It's often said, inaccurately in fact, that the end of the Moors in Andalusia came with the fall of Granada in 1492. In fact, they carried on living in these Alpujarran villages well into the 17th century. Another one of the interesting features of Trevélez are these fountains that you see scattered throughout the three barrios. The irrigation here was created, first of all, or perfected by the Moors, who were really masters of anything to do with aquatic engineering. And the irrigation today, the water for the fields, the transportation and so on, is still based on what the Moors created here about 400 years ago. Don't be fooled, although this is normally thought of as a quiet place for mountain retreats or spiritual hikes or even yoga. These people, when it's time for fiesta, they understand fiesta. As the daytime activities wind down for the day and the secaderas close, it's time for that evening's party. And like anywhere in Spain, and in particular Andalusia, that involves good music. Well, as darkness falls, this being a Spanish fiesta, no doubt the party will continue along into the night. But for us, it's time to let the pigs go to bed. I hope you've enjoyed this visit to the Trevélez Ham Festival and that it's inspired you to visit for yourself in the future.